output. Reaper excels at melting the enemy tank's HP away, as their character model hitboxes are so big the entire spread of Reaper's shotguns is bound to hit. Reaper even can evade a Roadhog insta-kill if you hold down the button for Wraith form as you get hooked. Reaper will activate it as soon as the hook disengages, and you should be able to get away before he lands the final blow. Reaper is weak against ranged heroes such as Pharah and Widow, who he will struggle to find in range of his shotguns, and have the mobility to get vertical on him when he closes in. McCree will stop him dead in his tracks and make him think twice about flanking. Zarya is the only tank that can give him trouble, as if she blocks your massive amount of damage with her shields, it will give her a ton of charge, boosting her own damage output. Reaper's damage output makes him a priority target in team fights. Just like Genji, Zarya's shields help snowball team fights and keep Reaper alive and dealing damage. Lucio's heals and brawling playstyle synergizes with Reaper, but better yet is a well-timed speed boost that can launch Reaper into position to Death Blossom, and a Zarya shield on top of it makes for a deadly 3-part combo. Otherwise, Reaper will synergize with characters that can immobilize enemies, namely those that can set up his ultimate for maximum damage. Reinhardt, Mei, and Zarya are up to that task. Soldier 76 isn't the new friendly character he's made out to be. He's actually got a fairly high skill ceiling if you're up to the task with your aim. His output is so average that you have to play great to get any value out of him. Otherwise, you're likely only chipping away at the enemy's life totals, and with how powerful heals are in the game, if you're not getting them down, you may not be making a big enough impact on the battle. Despite these shortcomings, Soldier is an almost auto-include if Pharah troubles you. You can shoot her like skeet out of the sky. Soldier's effective against Tracer, not as clear of a counter pick as McCree's stun is, but Soldier's health pack can deny Tracer's ability to quickly burst him down. Soldier's biggest weakness is his middling attributes, so characters with a more weighted playstyle who excel at a particular area of the battlefield will most easily take him down. Soldier falls to big bursts of damage on targets he can't eliminate quickly or efficiently enough. Roadhog can deal with him at close, Widowmaker can with a ranged headshot, Reaper can Wraith form to close the distance, and Diva can fly in with Defense Matrix to do the same. Soldier synergizes in a well-balanced death ball with Reinhardt, Lucio, and/or Mercy. As the inefficiency of his rifle can struggle to bring down targets, Zenyatta's Discord Orb can make for a deadly ranged firing squad. Tracer's biggest strength is her ability to find weakened or low HP heroes and focus them down. Tracer is the bane of Zenyatta's existence, as almost no matter how far back he plays, Tracer is capable of blinking 3 times, being within touching distance, emptying her blasters into the Omnic, ending him and rewinding back in time for T. As long as Widow isn't tucked away on high ground Tracer can't get to, Tracer fights Widow fairly well. However, you must remember, half of the victory versus Widow is distracting her, even if you can't confirm the kill. A Widow that worries about you isn't scoping up taking heads off your teammates. Widow's mine and automatic rifle can rival Tracer's pistol, so be careful. Tracer's speed is nightmarishly fast, and with proper flinks, Junkrat won't be able to keep up with you. Unless, of course, he's being played by Seagull, who is a god among men and never misses a projectile. Tracer also has the speed to chase down Lucio, who often slips away in team fights from less agile characters. Tracer can't 1v1 big ol' Winston, but be sure to note this dynamic changes with multiple Tracer picks. McCree's flashbang is one of the few things that can quickly stop her in her tracks, and even the nerfed Fan the Hammer is enough to take her low health pool down. I'd also say Tracer is weak to Roadhog and Pharah, but I have to put an asterisk here. If the Tracer is great, she'll run circles around the Roadhog and he'll never land a hook. Similarly, if your Pharah aim and prediction isn't impeccable, it doesn't matter that a rocket does most of Tracer's HP, you'll never hit her. However, in the right hands, these characters can make Tracer's life a hard one. Roadhog keeps the backline stable and ends her with a well-placed hook, and Pharah can lurk overhead outside of the effective range of Tracer's pistols. If that's not in your wheelhouse though, Soldier 76's health pack can sustain his life and nullify her quick burst of damage. A couple of headshots from Soldier's rifle mixed with a Helix rocket can burst her down in no time. Tracer synergizes with Tracer! Bet you didn't see that coming. One Tracer can be an annoyance, but multiple Tracers can force the opposing team to rethink their composition entirely. If a Tracer duo can sustain a fight well enough on the back line, it can split the attention of the front line, making the job of your other 4 teammates a piece of cake. Other heroes that can jump into the back line work with her as well, such as Genji, Winston, and Diva, all who have their own strengths when it comes to breaching. Zenyatta's Discord Orb can mark a target for death, and even though it only lasts for 3 seconds out of his sightline, Tracer has the speed to chase down and eliminate most targets with that 50% added damage boost. Lucio's area of effect heal works well for Tracer's swarming playstyle, and the occasional speed boost makes her even harder to hit in stride. Zarya's Graviton Surge pairs nicely with Tracer's Pulse Bomb, which can be kind of tricky to land properly to get more than one kill without being set up. Well guys, that's been it for part 1 of my complete 21 hero Overwatch counters and synergies guide. The rest of it will come out this week, so keep your eyes peeled on your sub box. Please share it with your friends who are having trouble understanding how picking works in Overwatch. Like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you'd like to see more. My name is Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time. What's going on, everybody? It's Frito here, back again to talk about another Overwatch term, Death Ball. This is something that is more utilized in the pro community. You'll probably hear it there if you watch pro games. But we're kind of looking at one, actually, as I demolish it. But this was asked to be covered by a viewer of ours named Ryan GP, who asked it on my last Overwatch Terms Explained video, so I'm covering it here for you all. A Death Ball in Overwatch essentially is a well-rounded team composition of a Reinhardt in front, protecting DPS characters, dealing damage to the other team, with a mix of healers behind there as well. Well, that's the answer, video over, but there's more I could cover too. It originated in esports back in the StarCraft 2 days, I believe, and I think it still gets used in MOBA games like Dota now as well. But to just imply a large force that's well-rounded, right? And what you're watching on screen now is a good example of how to tilt the enemy team into desperation mode. They got the cart very close here, but since I was able to work around their death ball when they're playing as a team, for some reason, even though we're in ranked right now, they start to think that it's a good idea to keep going in one by one, and they kept trickling respawns. Here they're starting to engage more together, but really what they need to do is, even though it wasn't working, they have to group up, because if they don't, I can just fly around them as Pharah, pick whatever fights I want, and dictate the battle, ultimately. Now, one of the biggest counters, and you'd know this if you have watched my counters and synergies guide, which will be completed shortly, Pharah is excellent against Reinhardt, and Reinhardt is the basis to every death ball because he can move his shield along with him. But Pharah has the ability to utilize the terrain and fly over the death ball and deal damage to any point of it. So it doesn't matter that his shield's set up here. If his healers get out of line, I can start pegging into the healers, and all of a sudden now they don't have any healing, and I split them up, and I pinpoint them, and I deal massive damage into them left and right, and they don't know what to do. That frustrates a team to the point where they think they just have to desperately attack onto the point with every single respawn, but in reality, it's the job of the hit scan characters to take me out. Or, if that's not working, you can completely drop the concept of the death ball and go all out with fighting me in the air. You could toss Winstons at me or toss Winston shields on top of the point so I can't shoot down onto it. Reinhardt ultimately is weak to Pharah, is what I'm trying to get across if that hasn't got there already. But compare to how I play in my own death ball, because on the other side, when I was defending, the enemy team was able to be split up more often, and they may not have realized what the actual problem was, the problem being me. I feel like I say that far too often in these videos, But it is true. When you have a certain enemy player who is dealing far too much damage to your team and it feels like nobody's dealing with them, you need to reverse gears with your strategy and more heavy-handedly counter it, whether that means more hit scan or more mobility, whatever it takes. And instead of committing to this fight after 3 of my teammates die, I back up a little bit but still occupy enough space to not allow the enemy team to simply push in and spawn trap us. And I get a few chip kills here and there, and ult would have been more successful if that bastardly turret wasn't set up in my blind spot. But the death ball is an important thing to understand in Overwatch because it is the most efficient way to battle in a team composition. Ultimately, I would say there are 3 methods of battles that occur in Overwatch. There is the standard death ball versus death ball, which you see in the NA and EU Pro meta, where it's a lot of chip damage back and forth, and everybody's behind the Reinhardt shield, and they're just trying to take advantage of when the Reinhardt shield gets popped first, and when that happens, they move in quick and swarm around it and overcome the other team. There is skirmishes, where characters like Genji or Diva, by the way, this is a tip, watching myself back, this is the 2nd time this Reaper has flown in onto my enemy on my own team, and luckily he hasn't been able to have much success, but I had my concussion blast both times, and looking back at this footage, I get a little mad at myself that I'm trying to kill it when I could just blast his ultimate away and save my team. But skirmishes are when the fights are spread out. Now typically, that's not that useful in Overwatch because there's so many inherent synergies with playing with the team, because the Reinhardt shield value only has value if your teammates are shooting through it. If the rest of your team is all spread out across the map, Reinhardt just doesn't have much use, doesn't have anything to do. He's bored, he's just shielding himself, and that doesn't work. Instead, you may want to go with like Winston and Zarya for your tanks if your team is faster, where you have like a Tracer and a Genji who are flying into the opposing team's face and skirmishing. That's actually the way the Koreans play this game. Did you know that South Korea has a pro meta as well? And it plays completely differently from what I've noticed so far, and maybe it has changed since last I've checked in. But it's very heavy in Winston and Genji jumping around and skirmishing, as opposed to the NA and EU side, which has more death ball focus. Now, the 3rd style of fight that I would say is chaos, aka just a big team fight, because once 2 death balls or the skirmishes happen, it kind of just descends into madness, and it's difficult to even describe it as being something that is structured in that way. But this is a cheeky little bit of overtime gameplay. As you saw, I took out the Bastion, and we actually sustained heavy losses in that first fight, but because we have an attacker's advantage and our respawn is slightly closer, we were able to jump back in. Winston has a huge leap, so I'm able to get to the battle much quicker, and ultimately we just overwhelmed the point.
The coin is smoking. Blessed be this day.
And I thought it was so funny, that guy making fun of the overtime rule set. So if this cleared things up for you, please drop a like on the video. If you have any more questions, please leave it in the comment section below. That's been it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. See you guys next time.